Welcome to tonight's Tanya class. We are studying Tanya. We're studying the fourth section of Tanya called Igeret Hakodesh, the holy letters, and we are holding by chapter 5. And as always, Tanya is the foundation of mysticism, so every chapter puts down real solid foundations of mysticism, and every chapter is unique and special and something like revolutionary. And this chapter actually, Alter Rebbe, opens up something like amazing, and he shares with us that by us giving charity, like a few pennies in the pushka, dollars, whatever you want to do, you write a check or a credit card, by giving charity, or by doing chesed, helping someone, kindness, we literally create God's name. That's wow. We, us, or anyone out there watching the video, or anyone out there, not even watching it, whether you know or not, it's irrelevant, but anytime you do chesed, anytime you do kindness, you are creating God's name.
That's beautiful.
Right? Yeah. Class is over, right? No, there you go.
If that was it, 2.5 years ago, if you would have said that, this is Tanya, here's the...
That's it. Okay, so the question is, wow, that's revolutionary. Now, the Alter Rebbe didn't make this stuff up. It's all based on the Torah, prophets, the scriptures as you call it, the writings, and with insight, with the beautiful lens of the Talmud, the Mishnah, and the Zohar that literally opens up our eyes and makes our life really bright in a beautiful, special way. So the Alter Rebbe starts off with a verse from the prophet Samuel, where it says in the prophet Samuel that ויעש David Shem, King David made a name. Now, what was the story in the prophet Samuel? King David was referred to, he made a name. David did a lot of things in life. Because what happened was, when King David went to war against the enemy, so what happens when you go to war against the enemy, what happens is casualties. And unfortunately, people die. People get injured in war, or die. Now, if the enemy falls, it's the enemy's issue. They started, or they're in combat, and if they get into a conflict and they get hurt or they get injured, or God forbid they die, guess what? It's their side that's responsible for them. But what King David did, after he was successful in his wars, he didn't just allow the bodies that were killed just to lay there, he actually buried them. And that's a tremendous chesed. That's such beautiful kindness, because war is war. Hey, we're in combat, irrelevant what the situation was, but we're in combat, and therefore in war, there's casualties. Everyone knows that. In war, there's casualties. That's why it's best not to be in war. But in war, there's casualties, unfortunately, both sides. But when war is over, and you go back to living peacefully, are you going to be respectful to your enemy? And here King David was extremely respectful. Because these are people, think about it, anyone that died in war, obviously was out to kill King David and his army. So these are people that wanted to kill you. So you would say, they wanted to kill me, they're dead, let them leave, let them be, let someone else deal with it. But King said, no, two separate things. They fought war, and that's fine. Thank God we won. But it doesn't take away obligation from being kind. And King David demonstrated beautiful kindness. So when he went ahead and he buried the dead, not his people. His people, obviously in his direction, he was the king. So the prophet Samuel says, "Vayas David Shem," that David created obviously a beautiful name. Now, that's one interpretation. There's other as always, there's always many interpretations. Another interpretation is that he caused the name because he was so strong and so mighty, so he had a name for himself. King David, we all know King David, right? We always sing David, right? Melech Israel. Why? Because he created a name for himself because of his tremendous strength and power that he had, and that what he's accomplished in his life. So that's the two simple interpretations is. But the Zohar says that the reason why it says King David made a name for himself was because, let's go to the heart of it, because King David did tzedakah, the chesed, because he did charity and kindness, so he made a name for who? Not for himself. He made a name for God. Because who is the one that commanded us to act kind? And to be charitable, and to be nice to people, even though maybe they don't deserve it and they weren't nice to you. Who was the one? Who's the one that did that? God said that. So when King David acted in a way of tzedakah and chesed and mishpat, so what happened was, He made a name for God. So the Zohar says. Now, so here you see the source, what the Alter Rebbe says, that by doing tzedakah v'chesed, we make a name for God. Now, obviously, on a simple level, it makes sense. But the question is, what's the deeper significance behind it? What does it mean you're making a name for God? God needs your name. God is God. We're making a name for God. We're following God. We're making God's name. Now, obviously, but if the Torah does tell us He made a name, there's really a practical significance in a real tangible way where King David is literally making God's name. Like someone's called, for example, Isha Chesed. He got that title. Oh, this person's a kind person. How did he get the title? Because he earned it. So, obviously, what are we doing that we're making God's name? And what does it mean we're making His name? What name did He get? What name did God get? What name? It doesn't say what name. He got a name. What name? What name?
A kindness and goodness.
Well, what is God's name? Now, how are we making God's name? So the Alter Rebbe explains this by introducing a very, very deep Kabbalistic concept. So we're going to go like on a deep journey. Hold on to your Kabbalah seats. We're going to be taking a little journey. And the Alter Rebbe starts off by a piece in the Talmud that says like this. That it says in the verse, Ki Beka, which is Beis Yud Hey, which is referring to Beka, Yud Hey, the letter Yud and the letter Hey. Tzur Elamim is the strength of God. So Ki B'Yud Kei Tzur Elamim. Now Tzur Elamim, also Olam comes from the world of worlds. Olam is world, and Olamim is worlds. So the Talmud says, what is Ki B'Yud Hey Tzur? The formation, forming of worlds, right? With Yud Kei, God formed worlds. So in other words, what does it mean form the worlds? That means that the letter Yud formed one world, the letter Hey formed another world. Ki, which is beautiful. Ki Yud, so the Yud Hey, Yud formed one world, Hey formed another world, and that's why it says Ki Yud Hey Tzur Elamim, plural, many worlds. Now, what many worlds? So the Talmud explains very simple. That Yud, the letter Yud of God's name, God has His name is Yud, Hey, and Vav, Hey. But this verse only refers to the Yud and the Hey. The letter Yud created the world to come. The world to come for us. Obviously, it's already in existence. And the letter Hey created this physical world. Wow. So the letter Yud created the world to come, Olam Haba, and the letter Hey created this world, this Olam Haza, this world that we're in. Now, so the question is, what does that mean? The letter Yud creates the world to come. The letter Hey creates this world. I mean, nice, it's good, but what does that mean practically? So the Alter Rebbe explains as follows, and he says like this: that what is the world to come? Let's take a moment. Let's take a journey. Right? Let's take a journey. Everyone, put on your seatbelts. Right? Put on your imagination, and we're going to take a dream now. Let's take a journey. We're going to start dreaming about what it's like in the world to come. Okay, so we're in the world to come, right? So what happens in the world to come? Guess what? But one more second. You got to remember to come back here. This is not a one-way. This is not a one-way ticket. Yeah. This is a two-way street, a two-way ticket. So I'm giving you a ticket to the world to come, and then we're going to come back. Remember, I don't want to have anyone telling me, "Oh my gosh, where are they? They never came back." Everyone's coming back. Okay, so we're going to take now a journey to the world to come. Okay, what happens in the world to come?
Peace, joy, and love.
That's correct. We sit there, and we are basking in the Ziv Hashchina. We're basking in God's glory. Now, what does that mean? Practically, we're basking in God's glory. That means very simple. That God gave us a mind, a heart, and all the gifts that we have. So in this world, we have a lot of distractions. But what happens in the world to come? What are we going to do? Sit by the beach? There's no beaches in the world to come. Not that I know of. Look around. You see the beach? We're all in the world to come. I don't see any beaches, right? There are any hangouts. Right? There are no bowling alleys or whatever else. What?
I'm not a beach guy. Works for me.
Very good. Exactly. There's no golf either. All right.
I don't golf.
Basketball. I don't know. What do you like?
I could be an executive.
Good. All right. So what do people do in the world to come? They sit and they study Torah. They study. Everyone's sitting with the Mishnah and the Talmud and the Chumash and maybe the Chayenu and the Malchus and the Kabbalah and mysticism. People are sitting and studying Torah. Now, how do you study Torah? You study Torah, we know, with
our heart.
That's also true. But what do we use to study Torah? Our, yes, correct. Our chabad, our intellect. Our intellect. Now, specifically in the intellect, we know there's three parts of the intellect. There's ches, beis, dalet, chabad, Chochma, Bina, das. Which specific one of the Chochma, Bina, das do we use? We use Bina. Because, why is Bina? Because when you sit and study Torah, Chochma is the ideas. Once you get the ideas, Torah study means Bina, you're developing, you're getting into it, you're developing different ideas of it. You're getting the right of it, the left of it, the depth of it. Bina is the full development of the idea. So you're using your Bina to sit and study and comprehend and converse in Torah study. There's depth to it, there's Bina to it. So as you study, wow. Now, our Bina is limited. Why is it limited? Because it's a sphera which is limited. God is infinite. So what's the difference when you study Torah in this world versus when you study Torah in the world to come? The difference is very simple. In this world, we're studying and we're using our Bina, the best capability. But in the world to come, what happens is because it's a higher spiritual world, the light of Chochma shines in to Olam Haba in the world to come, and therefore the strong light that's available that we can all use is coming from the world of Chochma. In the world of the Sfirot, it's from God's name, the Yud, and we know the Hey, it represents Bina, and there's basically a in the words of the Zohar, it's called a nekuda, which is a dot, like the Yud is a dot. בהיכלה, in the big chamber of what? Of the world of Bina. So what is the dominant force that we don't necessarily, that we can't attain and appreciate and connect to in this world, is the light of Chochma. Because if it was too strong, we wouldn't be able to handle it. So in the world to come, what's the power, the gift that we have there is that we have the light of Chochma, the nekuda, the dot, that comes into our world of Bina. So we use our Bina to understand and comprehend and to really get into it. But what the dominant force there is the little Yud, which is basically Chochma, which is shining into the world of Bina. Now, so the world to come again is what? What's the dominant force?
Bina.
Bina we use. As a matter of fact, Zohar calls Olam Haba, the Zohar calls Olam Haba, the world to come, Bina. Why? Because we're using Bina, but Bina is lit up with Chochma. You're using Bina like you use here, but the difference is that Chochma is the one that's the dominant force. So in other words, so let's go back to the point. So the Yud, Hey, Tzurei Lamim. So the world, which world? The world to come is created what with the Yud, because the dominant, powerful gift that we have in the world to come is that we have the light of the Yud that's totally wow, totally shining in Olam Haba, that allows us with our Bina to really have a beautiful look and experience of God and godliness. Now, so the Alter Rebbe continues, and he quotes another piece from the Zohar that says, the quote is, Abba Yesod Barta, which means Abba refers to Chochma, and Yesod, which means is the source. Barta comes from the word of the letters of Aleph through Taf, all the letters, and we know that the letters which are words, is which sphera? When you say Dibur, to speak, which sphera is that? Dibur is which sphera? The sphere of?
Any Gentiles?
Chesed.
No. Speech is which sphera? The sphere of Malchus.
Oh.
Right? Dibur is Malchus. We say it every single Friday night before Kabbalah Shabbat in Pasach Eliyahu. Malchus Peh. Malchus is Peh, the mouth, which speaks. So in other words, Abba Yisod Barta, which means that Chochma is the source of Malchus and obviously Dibur. Now, so the question is, what's the connection between Chochma and Dibur? Because normally, when you speak, what do you usually speak? What do you talk about? You're either talking about one of two things. No, that's what you're talking about. I'm talking in the world of sfirot. For example, you have your intellect and your emotions, right? So when you talk, you're usually talking emotions. I feel like this, I feel like that, I'm afraid, I'm happy, I'm scared, I'm excited, right? That's usually what people talk about, feelings. Or you talk about what else? Intellect, intellectual ideas. I read this in the Torah, what does this mean, what does that mean? Or you explain something, right? So usually speech, which is the lowest sphere, which is Malchut, you're usually expressing either emotions, or you're expressing intellect. Now, Chochma, right? What's Chochma? Chochma we know is a flash of an idea. Bina that's when we refer to intellect, we're referring to Bina and Das, and that's what you usually speak about. But you just don't sit and talk Chochma. Because we know Chochma is what? Koyachma, the power of what is it? So when you're trying to access Chochma, are you talking? No, you're saying, what is it? So you don't use Chochma. Here the Alter Rebbe quoted the Zohar that says that what? That Abba Yisoid Bartha, that the source of all our speech is from Chochma. How does that work? And the Alter Rebbe comes out and explains something very fascinating. He says like this. What's really interesting is that the truth is that even though that when we talk, we're sharing feelings and we're sharing ideas, but think about it like this. When you're talking, right? Unless you have a certain feeling, whether you're in love, or you're in fear, or you're excited, or you're talking an intellectual idea, how do you speak? You use your mouth, right? Now, so let's say you have a certain feeling. So how does your mouth articulate the feeling? Let's say you feel right now very excited, and you want to tell everyone, oh my gosh, I had an amazing day. Right? You feel you had a great day, and you're like, wow, I want to share with you my amazing day. How did that go to your mouth?
Saying, wow.
So what? Your feeling told your mouth to move your lips this way? Well, let's say you have an idea. So now how does it go through your mouth? Like what? You got it? How does it work?
From your intellect.
Huh? So the Alter Rebbe explains, waiting for the intellect. The intellect tells the mouth, okay, I want you to stop moving your mouth like this and closing your mouth like this. How does it work? It's like a puppet show? Okay. Right? How does it work? You never thought of it? We do it all day long. You never thought of it?
No.
Right? Interesting. It's beautiful. I mean, this is really amazing. So the Alter Rebbe explains, revolutionary, I think it's not necessarily conventional thinking is, but he says that what happens is when you speak, you know who's really talking? That's his point, based on the Zohar. Your Ratzon hanefesh, because we know the Sfirot, it starts with really Chochma, Bina Das, which is your intellect, your emotions, then Malchut, which speaks. But really what he said, what's the highest sphere? The highest sphere is Keser, the crown, which is actually called Ratzon hanefesh, or like a very high level of Chochma, which is in your, so to speak, will. So in your nefesh is carved out already the letters, in your nefesh. So when a person speaks, true, you're expressing your feelings, or you're sharing an idea, but the speaking part, the expression, is coming from where? From the will of your soul. The will of your soul, that's what's creating that speech. The proof is, because think about it, if it's a feeling, so what's your feeling telling doesn't tell you, okay, say that, right? Or your intellect. But the answer is because it's coming from such a deep place, from your, and again, in the Kabbalistic term, it's called your Ratzon HaNefesh, the will of your soul, or a very high level of Chochma, that does what? That sends a signal to the mouth, and it talks automatically. Like for example, you know, in the Hebrew vowels, right? So you have the letters, Aleph, Beis, Gimel, etc., and then you have the vowels. What are the vowels? Kamatz, right, or Patach. Now, according to Kabbalah, Kamatz is a restrictive vowel. Kamatz. Patach is more open. So you don't say, let's say I'm going to say, for example, Kamatz Aleph, oh. So I don't say, okay, now mouth, move, go, oh. No, you think of Kamatz Aleph, right, from your soul, and boom, it comes out. Or you don't say, okay, now I'm going to do Patach, so now move your lips wide, right, ah. No, you don't do that, you just, right, it comes from the depth of your soul. Now, so ultimately what the Alter was showing us is that even Dibur, speech, the lowest level, Malchut, what triggers it to move? What triggers your speech to move, or to say anything, or to express yourself in the world of speech? What's the source? It comes from where?
Chochma.
Comes from Chochma, which is the highest sphere. So now the Alter Rebbe says, one second, if that's the case, that it comes from where? From Chochma, and which in God's powerful name of Yud Hey Vav Hey, which letter is Chochma? Which letter is Chochma? We had it before. The Yud. It's Yud. Now we know the Yud created what? The world to come. And what created this world? The Hey.
Right.
The lowest world. So in other words, in the lowest Sphira, Dibur, Malchus, right, this world's the Hey. What are we saying now? What created speech? Not a Hey. Not emotions, which would be a Vav. Not intellect, which would be a Hey. It's Chochma, or the Rtzon Nefesh. So based on that, I will say, one second. So we're trying to say that the Yud created the world to come. We got that. And we're trying to say the Hey creates this world. But based on what the Zohar says, Abba Yesod Bartha, which means that Chochma is the one that creates the speech, Malchus, this world, so that everything comes from Chochma. Everything comes from the Yud. So what's the idea that Hey creates this world? So the Alter explains as follows. That there's something which is called, in speech, there's the Pnimius and the Chitzonius, which basically means the internal versus the external. And also, there's something which is called the Chomer and the Tsura. So the Chomer is the technical part, the more coarse physical part, and then there's the Tsura, which is more the forming of it, the more refined part. So the Alter Rebbe,
The essence.
the essence of it, exactly. So in other words, you have the Pnimius, the internal part, you have the Tsura, the finer part of it, and then you have the Chitzonius, the external part, and the technical, the coarse part of it. So the Alter explains as follows, that the Yud of God's name, that not only creates the world to come, but also creates the Pnimius, the internal part of Dibur, as well as the Tsura, the formation, the finer part of the letter looks like this, the letter looks like that, etc. So this that we said, Abba Yesod Bartha, that the Chochma creates the speech, is referring to the internal speech and the shaping of it, the spiritual part of it. Now, when it comes to the external speech, like the physical, technical, coarse uttering of the word, that comes from the Hey part of Hashem's name. No, it's from the lower part of energy of Hashem, not necessarily all the way up from the high level of Yud. In other words, like this. So this why, in other words, not only that, because in this verse, what do we say? It says Biyud K Tzur. That means the world was created, Olam Haba from the Yud, this world from Hey, but we also know that this world is created from which Hey of God's name? God's real name is not only Yud Hey and Vav Hey. Now this world is created from the first Hey or the second Hey? From the second Hey. From the second Hey, not from the first one. But in this world, so, and basically the same idea is that the first Hey, it goes through, everything starts with the Yud, it goes through the Hey, then the Vav, and then the Hey. So in Olam Haba, the powerful force that's dominant and it's totally exposed is the first Yud. When it comes down to this world, so it depends. The finer, the inner part of this world, and the Tsura, the Pnimius, comes from through the first Hey, and eventually comes down through it, but the dominant force is still active from the first Hey. But more importantly, this world, the physical part of the world, gets created from what? From the last Hey of Hashem's name. Now, and the Alter Rebbe goes in deeper and he says like this, because we all know that Hashem has, God's name is Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. Now, we know the Yud resembles what? The Yud resembles Chochma. Also, the Yud resembles what? Atzilut, which is the highest world. It means God is totally, comes from the word Eitzel, close to God. So the first Yud is the Dat, Chochma, the first powerful revelation, and the part that's really, really close to God. That's the first Yud. Now, what is the avoda that you get from connecting to the Yud of God's name? Think about it. If it's Chochma, what is Chochma? Chochma is totally, in order to get Chochma, you have to ask, what is it? Which is a level of humility. the world of Atzilut, if it's close to God, in order to be really, really close to God, if you want to be close to God, what do you have to do? Humble yourself. The more you humble yourself, you know what happens more? The more God is felt. The more God, for the opposite, the more arrogant you are, less God. So if you want to invite God in your life, there's one ingredient.
Humility.
It's not bowling or roller skating or golfing, right? Or what was the thing you like, water sports? No, it's not that. No, it's not that. What really is, we need to lighten this up, it's a pretty heavy class, right? So we've got to bring down the energy here. But in order to invite God in your life, there's one ingredient. Think about it. Imagine you have to make a whole dinner, all these ingredients. Oh my gosh, it's complicated. One ingredient. Not an easy one, but one ingredient. What's the humility? The more humility means less of you, the more God. And that is the experience, what? In the world of Atzilut. In the world of Bria, so already it's already a creation. So that comes from the second letter of God's name, which is the Hey, which resembles Bina. And because there's already, God is a little bit like edging him out a little bit, and sometimes you have to, because if you want to start studying Torah, if it's only God, right, how are you going to study it? How are you going to use your mind? So the world of Bria is Bina, it's the Hey, and already there, what's the active part is your understanding. If you say, oh, whatever God wants, let's learn Talmud, whatever God says, I'm okay with it. That's good, and that you should do during prayer services, but you're not going to be able to understand the piece of Talmud, or Mishnah, or Kabbalah, because you have to use your understanding. Bina requires you need to be present, because you need to understand. And matter of fact, the world of Bria is the place that that's the energy of that world, is the world of Talmud, because you're comprehending, you're understanding, etc. Okay, but then God went down further. He created the world of Yetzirah from the Vav, the Vav. Now, what does the Vav resemble? The Vav resembles now emotions, love, awe. It's more of us getting developed. All our emotions. I feel excited. I feel happy. I'm nervous. I'm in love. I'm afraid. Right? That's the world of Yetzirah. Yetzirah is the world of Vav, the world of emotions, and interestingly enough, interesting that not only the world of emotions, but also it's the world of Mishnah and Halacha. We'll talk about it soon, a little more in depth. Now, then comes the world of the last world, Yud Hey Vav Hey, which creates this physical world, right? This physical world, which is the world of action. And what is the avoda in this world? In order to do something, it's almost, it's in a certain way you're reverting back to the highest on a certain level, because action is about what? Work. But if you're discussing what to do, is anything going to get done? If you're excited about doing it, is anything going to get done?
So you're saying be pragmatism.
You have to be accepting. The world of action, in order to get stuff done, you need to be accepting. You need to be one boss and many workers. Not everyone's a boss and one worker. Nothing happens. Right? You got it? Okay. So the world of action is the last Hey, and that is all about action. And the way you act is you accept. Like if you can discuss for 2 hours how should you put on tefillin, or whether you should keep kosher or not, you're not doing it. So you have to accept. Okay, let's go. Let's put on tefillin. Let's keep Shabbat. Let's keep kosher. Whatever the mitzvah is, total acceptance. Now, so this world, which is the physical world, the world of action, where does it get its energy and life force from? From the Hey. And that is why this world, let's go back, Yud Hey, Tzurei Lamim, the Yud creates the higher world, Olam Haba, the world to come. The light is on, where when you get there, oh my gosh, you're infused with the powerful light of Hashem. But in this world, what do we get the energy from? From the last Hey, which is the world of action, the world of acceptance, and that's why this world was created from the Hey. Now, here comes back the big question. What did we say in the beginning of the class? The Alter Rebbe came along and said, guess what? We have the power to create Hashem's name. How do we do that? So the Alter Rebbe starts off, and it's a deep concept. He starts off with a mashal, with an analogy. Anything you want to deal with something deep, you have to have some kind of analogy to break it down. So he says like this. Let's say let's say someone is a very, very intellectual person, and he sits and he studies, deep philosophies and deep theories. Could be, let's even whether it's in the world of Torah or the world of science, any world of academia, and you study and you meditate and you write reports and you really, really high level thinking, and you say to this person, I have a job for you. What's a job? Or it could be your own child, your child or a job, to sit and teach someone ABC or the Aleph base. Now, someone that sits and meditates and researches and writes heavy papers, how do you think he's going to how do you think he's going to feel about that job? Teach someone ABC or Aleph base or numbers 1, 2, 3. Someone that knows all the highest mathematics. Say, I teach someone 1 plus 1. You teach the plus and the minus. How do you think that person is going to feel about that job or that responsibility, that task? Not motivated. Why? Why? Because someone that's so well advanced and someone spends so much time studying, meditating, and really like getting into something so deep, and you say, here's a simple job to do. How exciting is he going to be? Not at all.
But he can be humble.
Yes, but let's say, for example, he goes, okay, well, let's say I say to him, guess what? It's your son. And we have no other teacher to teach them. Right? Now, obviously, he's going to want to do it.
Yeah.
But in order for him to do it, what does he have to do? He walks in, I can imagine he's teaching, he starts talking this big philosophy. He's going to lose the kid. So in the world of Kabbalah, that's called? He has to be mitzamtzim himself. He has to constrict himself. He has to get all that static, all that heavy data, all that heavy energy, and get it all out. And almost erase the board. Can you imagine you spent 10 hours coming up with a theory, and I say, okay, I need you to teach a child an aleph, or an A, or a digit. And you have a board that's totally full with your mathematical equations and Talmudic insights, whatever you put on the board. The kid walks in, he's getting a headache from looking at that board. So what do you have to do? You have to literally wipe the board. All the data. Now I'm showing it to you on a board, which is not, it's only a board. But once I tell you have to wipe your brain, right?
Wow.
It's nice once in a while, right? But it's not easy if you're really a thinker. So you have to go ahead and wipe it. You have to wipe the board. And then you teach the kid, the child, an aleph, an A, and they go, wow, thank you for that gift. I didn't know that, right? You gave a child a gift. The kid was so grateful and so happy, but in order to give him that gift, what had to happen? You have to be willing to wipe the board. Now, that's a mashal, that's an analogy. Let's look at God. Now we're going to bring it back full circle. Let's look at God. God is what? Infinite. Infinite. Infinite worlds. I mean, infinite. We can't even comprehend infinite. And God says, okay, I'm going to go ahead now and erase the board. Whew. And draw down a light. As we know, called it Tzimtzum. Cleaned it up, draw down one light, and from there he created this world. Now, by the way, the light we normally use as a light, as a line. Today we're going to use a different word rather than a line. We're going to use which letter he used to create this world?
The Yud.
No, this world.
Oh, hey.
Very good, the hay. He used the hay, exactly. Yes, he used the hay. He used the hay to create this world. Matter of fact, when the Torah in Genesis, when it says God created the world, it says Bihi Baram. Bihi Baram, it comes from two words. Bihi, with a hay, Baram. He created this world with a hay. So Hashem literally cleared the board. And he used the letter hay to create this world. Which actually, interestingly enough, out of all the letters, Aleph, right? You hear how many letters in there? Aleph, Lamed, Fei, right? Beis, Yud, Saf. There's a Gimel, right? There's a lot to a letter, right? What do you hear? Gimel, Mem, Lamed, Daled, right? Daled, Lamed, Daled. Every single letter in the alphabet, there's excitement about it. When you're teaching an Aleph, you can say there's an Aleph and there's a Lamed and Fei. When Hey is the lightest word. There's nothing to it. What's a Hey? Hey, Aleph, but it's very, very light. So God, not only he didn't use the big words, the aleph, the beis, the gimel, he used a simple hey. Wow, that's a major contraction. God created this world with the hey, the last letter of God's name. Now, why did God create the world? Why? Why did he create the world? Why did Hashem create the world?
I've been meaning to ask him.
Okay, it's a local call here. We're in the synagogue.
That's right,
Why did he create the world? And the answer is very simple. Because God is a kind God and a loving God, and he wanted us to have a great life. No other good reason. He just is a good God. Time to say thank you, right? God, thank you for creating this world and creating me. God was a good God, was and is a good God, and decided he wanted us to have a great life. And because he wanted us to have a great life, he went ahead and created what? This beautiful world for us. Wow. Now that's very nice. Now, and what's interesting is that Behi has the same letters as Abraham. Because Abraham also personified chesed. And God, by creating was an act of chesed, and that's why Abraham has the same letters as Behi. It's also about a creation, which is all about chesed. So God decides he's creating this world out of what? Out of chesed. Now, when God created the world, was anybody around? No, nothing existed. So God decides out of his own free will, out of an act of chesed, to just take care of this beautiful world. Nice, right? Beautiful. Once God created the world, and he put people in the world. He put people in the world, right? Guess what? Not trouble. Once God created the world, and he put people in the world, and he said, he mandated in the Torah, I'm putting you in this world to do what?
Do good.
Well, there's a lot of mitzvot, correct. There's 613 commandments, but there's 613 specific commandments, 248 positive, 365 negative, correct. But God gave a global mission, like a vision, a mission statement. Mission statement is not what's God's mission statement? You're not going to risk me all 613 commandments. I mean, it's a long mission statement. A mission statement is usually like to the point. So the Torah tells us 2 words in Genesis, right in the beginning. God put us in this world to work it, u'lashamra, and to watch it. What does that mean, to work it? So working it is in general, l'shamra is to watch it in general. To work it means very simple. When God created the world, there was no one around. So God decided to be chesed. God said, guess what, now you're going to have to do it. I did it. I created it. I gave it all to you. I'm giving you a mandate. La'avda, you got to work it. Work it and do what? You do chesed. What does that mean? What does that mean? Who created the world? God.
So we need to create.
One second. Who created the world? God created the world. Who maintains the world? God. God says, work it. Hello? I can't create a tree. I can't create people. I can't create... What can I do? I can't do anything. God's the only one who can create, but God said work. So what's the answer? Very simple. God says, I'll do my part. But just, you do your part. Put your finger in, and I'll do the rest. Like with Nachshon and Nadav. He came to the water, God said, you move. The water's there. What was the answer? Your job is to move. As soon as he put his foot in, oh my gosh, God split it. Our job is la'avda. Our job is to be a Nachshon and Nadav. Do your part. True, are we capable of creating and maintaining a world like this? No. But does God want us sitting in bed all day? Or on the couch? No. Or surfing the web? And just sitting and WhatsApping half the day? And texting? No. God wants us la'avda.
Do our part.
To do our part. Just do your part. Show, like you said, what's the expression they say? Show up. They say showing up is 80% of the job. Based on this, you'll see showing up is 100% of the job.
Woody Allen says that.
We're going to, according to the Alter Rebbe, it's 100% of the job. You show up. Show up.
Show up.
Get out of bed before it gets light. Wake up before the morning starts. Get up. Do your part. Pray. Study. You say, why should I do it? God runs the world. That's right. But God asks you to show up. God wants you to stand and show up, and He'll do the rest. All you have to do is show up. The work will happen on its own. That's all you have to do. In the words of Kabbalah, you know what that's called? Isarusa Le'ela means a gift from above. That God gave us before we were here. But now God says, Isarusa Le'tata, do your work. Awaken. Just ring, pick up the phone, call, say I need help. I'll do the rest. But if you don't call me, how am I going to know you need help? I mean, God knows, but He wants us to pick up the phone and make the call. Now, so in other words, so when we do chesed, God does. What does that mean? It's very simple. God says, show up and do your work. So now what happens is very, very simple. God says, show up, do your part. That means like this. I'll give you a simple analogy. You show up to the mirror. We all have mirrors in our house. Olden days used to go to the water to see how you look. You show up to the mirror. What do you see in the mirror? Whatever you put in, that's what you get out. You stand by the mirror and you smile. What's in your mirror? I call, hey, what's in your mirror?
A smile.
A smile. Then you put on we don't do this, but let's say someone was like in a weird mood, and I don't know, not you, but whatever. Someone puts a frown in the mirror. What do you see in the mirror? A frown. The point is, it's very simple. What you put in is what you get out. You stand in front of the mirror, you put on a smile, you have a smile. You stand in front of the mirror, you have a frown. Okay. Very simple. You do chesed, you do kindness. You know what God does? Showers you with kindness. You help strangers. What does God do? He helps you. So you want to be in a giving mode, because guess why? Whatever you give, you're going to get it back. And in spades, because it's coming from God. What happens if you're not nice to people? Which button are you pushing in God? The not nice button. You know what you're going to get back? I don't want to say it. All right? It's very simple. God says, do, and I will mirror you. I'll be a big mirror. Not a mirror. I'm going to be a huge mirror. So therefore, it's irrelevant what anyone says or does. If you will act in a kind way, you're going to get kindness. From who? Not from the person. From God. You only have one relationship in life, and that's with God. That's your partner. We all have one partner. Did anyone not know this till now? Did anyone not know you had a partner with God?
Sure.
You have a partner, and the partner delivers. You know what he delivers you? Exactly what you put in.
He's my beloved.
So in other words, when you act out of chesed to everybody, what do you get from God? Chesed. When you're nice to some people and mean to some people, you know what you're going to get back? Nice and mean. Not from the people. From who? God. He has ways to send it to you, obviously. You're living in the real world. But the point is, what we put in, that's what we get back. Wow, that's pretty heavy. So for example, let's say you want to really, really get into studying Torah. You want to, you want to appreciate it, you want to understand it, you want to have the excitement of Torah. What should you do? Study Torah. And God will flood your head with Torah. Show up, take the book out, open it, study it, read it, and you know what happens? Oh my gosh, how did I get all that stuff in my head? Because you just push the button. You push the right button. It's like you go buy soda from a fountain. There's buttons there. Depending on what the button you push, that's what you're going to get out. Put water, you get water. Soda, diet, so whatever you push, that's what you're going to get out. So that's our job in this world, to show up and push the button. Now, that's why the Arizal says that what happens is, when a person studies Torah, when you study Torah, what do? So you're opening up the gates of Torah study. Now, Torah study, we said before, is which world? Which world? You have your notes. Which world is Torah study?
Torah study is the Yud.
Is the world of Bria, right?
Oh, yeah.
The world of Bria, the Hey. So when you sit down and study Torah, you're drawing down God's energy to where? To the world of Bria. When you sit down and learn Halakha, or Mishnah, which is like Halakha, so you're drawing down God's, because God's going to give right back to you. You're drawing down light into which world? The world of Yitzirah. Now, what happens when you physically do a mitzvah in this world? In this world, you do a mitzvah, whether Shabbos, Kashrus, whatever the mitzvah may be. Hi, how are you? Give us a minute. When you do a mitzvah in this world, what happens when you do mitzvah in this world? God sends you down energy to where? Into this world. literally into this world. So in other words, like this. When a person, again, studies Torah, you go down to the world of Bria, Mishnah, etc. Now, when you do a mitzvah in this world, where does it come down to? This world. Where does the mitzvahs come from? Which letter of God's name? The letter of Hey. So what happens is very simple. Now that God created the world, God took, so to speak, almost like a backseat position. He's not proactive. It's your world. Do what you want with it. So when we sit here, correct. When we study Torah, we'll get it down to Bria. But we want God's presence to be felt in this world. In this world, there's one button we need to push. What is that button? Mitzvot. Let's use it a global name. When you do chesed, when you do kindness, when you do charity, when you do gemilas chasadim, when you do acts of kindness, when you help people, you take and bring down God's light into this world. Which part of God? Not the Yud, too powerful. Not the Hey, not the Vav, but the last Hey. The last Hey comes down to this world. So in other words, like this. Let's say, for example, you're thinking of an idea. You're meditating an idea. That stays within you. Intellect is with yourself. Let's say you're excited about it. That's also you. When do you become expressive? When do you start relating to other people? When you speak. So speech has the power that it penetrates into the world. So now, since God took a back seat, and the way God gets revealed in this world, in a real strong way, is by only one way. By doing mitzvot, by doing chesed, by doing tzedakah, by doing charity. By being kind, by being nice. When we do that, you know what God shows us? Whoa. God, infinite amount of kindness. So, and where does it come from? Which letter of God's name? The Hey. Because the Hey is the one that comes in this world. The other letters are too powerful for this world. Right? The Yud is Natzilut, the Hey is in Bria, the Vav is in Yitzirah. The Hey is the one that comes down to this world. Now, since God took a back seat, so if we don't do anything, well, we never do nothing, but if we don't do any kindness or good, then we don't do mitzvot, is God's name, the letter of God's name, the Hey, in this world revealed? No. So not only are we drawing down God's energy, but in practical Kabbalistic terms, we are actually building God's name. We're revealing God's name in this world. So based on this, the Alter Rebbe explains, this is what the Zohar says, that when we give charity, when we do mitzvot, we literally create God's name. What does that mean, we create God's name? Because God's name is almost like concealed, and it's in disguise. So every single time you're doing a mitzvah, besides the fact that you're drawing down godly energy, and besides the fact that you're going to get a lot of blessings for yourself, you're literally creating God's name. You're lighting up God's name. It's like putting on lights. Tell me it was dark, you do a mitzvah, you're putting the lights on. What light? The light of the Hey lights up. And that allows us to experience the power of energy of God. So I think this chapter is such a beautiful chapter, because it really shows us in a real, tangible way, behind the scenes, what happens when we do mitzvot, and specifically when we do chesed, and we're nice to people, irrelevant whether they deserve it or not. We are actually bringing a lot of greatness into our life. We're bringing in God's name into this world. And what greater joy is there than being part of literally building and rebuilding and allowing God's name to be revealed and felt in a beautiful and revealed way in this world.